Dear Madam, we are Intellectual Property Counsel to Valnet Inc. Our client has recently become aware of a video that you had published on YouTube, which was, inter alia, defamatory to our client, constituted a breach of contract pursuant to an agreement that you had signed with Valnet, and constituted an infringement of our client's copyrighted works. The video at issue is entitled The Geek Content Mills Ruining the Internet. As you are well aware, following a complaint filed by our client with YouTube, the video was removed from the platform for copyright reasons on November 19th, 2024. As further described below, by making available the video on internet platforms, including but not limited to YouTube, you are liable in the US and Canada for, inter alia, defamation, breach of contract, copyright infringement, unfair competition, and deprecation of goodwill.
What do you know? They don't use the Oxford comma in cease and desist letters. Whew. Howdy folks, I'm Jenny Geist. On January 9th, 2024, I released a video titled The Geek Content Mills Ruining the Internet, in which I talked about news and listicle sites like Screen Rant, CBR, HitFix, Game Rant, and so on. I went through the general history of these sites, why I personally think they suck, and even what it's like to actually work at one. Because, for a few months in 2021, I did work for one, Game Rant. It was an unpleasant contracting experience where I was paid less than the California minimum wage, so I stopped very quickly. But it did stick with me as a negative experience, and upon some basic research, I saw that I wasn't alone in disliking my experiences with the parent company Valnet. I wasn't alone in my criticisms of Valnet and their subsidiaries, as I found negative stories from former editors and freelancers, news articles about mass layoffs, and individual investigations of these sites plagiarizing from other sources. My ultimate conclusion was that the enshittification of the internet is bad, and it sucks that there's not much we can do. I thought that was the end of the story. I uploaded the video, I got 2,973 views across 11 months on my channel that has just over 3K subscribers as of writing, and that was that. I went back to making videos about important stuff, like Illumination being a mediocre but harmless animation studio, and Letterboxd joke reviews not being that bad. Super riveting stuff that connected with tens, no, dozens of people. Then came November 19th, 11 whole months later, when the video got taken down due to a copyright removal request from Valnet. 18 seconds were flagged for showcasing a copyrighted Game Rant article, giving my channel a copyright strike. Since the video is gone now, let me show a censored version of the offending material.
Maybe once in a blue moon you'll be looking for a Baldur's Gate 3 tip and click onto a Game Rant guide, only to instantly regret it as you're bombarded with ads and pop-ups and paragraphs upon paragraphs of meaningless fluff until you finally get to the meat of the article, which is impossible to read due to a mix of hyperlinks, images, and the aforementioned ads. So you click out of it, ready to send a strongly worded email to your parents arguing that it was morally wrong for them to conceive of you, or maybe that last part's just me.
I immediately disputed the claim because at the time I thought partially showing a written article in order to critique it and in a way transform it by making it into a funny comedy bit fell under fair use. Well, 2 weeks later, on December 3rd, Valnet sent me a cease and desist letter both by email and physically, as in by a human legal courier to the front door of my home. Twice, because I didn't answer the door the first time, as it was 9:40 p.m. at night. Interestingly, they also sent a legal courier to the address where I used to live with my parents, where I haven't lived for 5 years, and my parents haven't lived for, I think, 3 years. So, sorry to whatever tenant got woken up by a legal representative for a company based out of Canada, serving legal papers to a woman who now lives in a different state. Now, with that background out of the way, let's go over the letter itself. The C&D claims that my video falls under defamation, breach of contract, copyright infringement, unfair competition, and deprecation of goodwill. Stuff like,
you disparaged Valnet's reputation by making a series of false allegations that Valnet is a quote-unquote blatant SEO farm or content mill, falsely declaring that Valnet's strategy is to publish articles without regard to quality or content. The terms clickbait and content mill are employed in a clearly disparaging and defamatory manner throughout the video, not to mention that the factual basis for the terms are premised based on falsehoods. You defamed Valnet's credibility in relaying false accusations that Valnet did not care about research with respect to its articles, and that Valnet's sites are not a credible source. You relayed false and defamatory accusations regarding Valnet's treatment of its writers, falsely suggesting that Valnet ignores labor laws, and according to which writers were overworked and underpaid, were let go without cause, and are poorly treated. In the description of your YouTube channel, you indicate making video essays and retrospectives about games, shows, and other nerdy interests, which unequivocally overlaps with the services offered by our client, notably under the trademark Game Rant. As such, you are to be considered our client's competitor. Since the Valnet trademarks are both displayed in the video on multiple occasions, they are deemed to be used for the purpose of paragraph 22(1) of the Canadian Trademarks Act. Thus, again, given the defamatory accusations and statements that you have made or relayed in the—
Okay, that's enough. If you want to read the rest of it, I'll show the non-private stuff right now. While I believe most of the letter speaks for itself, there are a few things I want to point out or clarify. One, in the section claiming defamation, the letter says that I falsely declared that Valnet has been sued for reasons of plagiarism. This actually is true in the sense that I made a mistake. There have been cases of Valnet sites being caught plagiarizing, such as the on-screen examples I showed of them being caught copying guidework for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and the many examples provided by Brickwall Pictures video on the subject. And there have been cases of Valnet being sued for copyright infringement, such as in NY Daily Newswire LLC v. Valnet Inc. and Elliot McGuckin v. Valnet Amicus Brief. Technically though, the plagiarism and the copyright lawsuits were unrelated in both cases. So they got me there. I messed up.
Is it too late now to say sorry?
Furthermore, in the section claiming breach of contract, the letter says that I breached section 6.10 in my employment contract, which TLDR is that I cannot talk about Valnet's internal business structure to someone not in the company. The specific lines called out are:
At the time of my employment, Game Rant required contributors to publish a minimum of 25 articles per month, and news stories had to be completed within 1 to 2 hours of being claimed. As well as, not something I actually say out loud, but the text from a Popverse article I show on screen while quoting something else. Valnet argues that the pay-per-view system is supposed to incentivize us to write stories that people want to read, to which Popverse columnist Graham McMillan aptly points out, as if writers would otherwise prefer no one saw their work.
Here's the thing, all the information in these clips was provided to me before I actually started working at Valnet. While I was in the application process before any contract was signed, I got this handy-dandy email explaining the minimum number of articles I would need to write per month, as well as how the page-per-view system works. This isn't top-secret information. Why would you take a job without knowing how much money you're going to make?
You can just Google how much does Valnet pay for articles, although Google sucks these days unless you add Reddit to the end, so maybe Google how much does Valnet pay for articles Reddit.
In fact, I rather hilariously got an impromptu email from Valnet on October 17th of this year where they told me they were hiring freelance writers. If I replied to this email instead of laughing at the irony of its existence, they probably would have given me the same information pro bono. My next and final note is about the section claiming copyright infringement, where the letter says that my video reproduces various screen captures showing titles and artworks of multiple articles which are protected by copyright and owned by our client. The specific examples they provide are all from the intro, where I'm sort of trying to parody low-effort YouTube channels that just recap nerd listicles like so.
Hey guys, Jenny Geist here, your favorite source for the nerdiest news that could technically fit under the legal and social definition of journalism. Today I'm counting down the 10 action movies from the 2000s that deserve a modern remake, and also the 15 best superhero armors and comic book movies, and also 15 scary horror movie moments that were actually incredibly cheap to produce, and also the 10 Disney characters most likely to be chasers.
So, you might have caught this one already, but one of the articles I mentioned, and that's listed in the C&D, isn't real. It's one I made up and inserted into the middle as a joke. They didn't actually make an article called The Top 10 Disney Characters Most Likely to be Chasers. I don't think they would do that. I was being a little jester with my silly jokes. So, unless they've actually released that article since I made my video, and if that's the case, I mean, hell yeah, I want to read it. I don't think that was supposed to be there. As if the story wasn't wild enough, 2.5 days after receiving the C&D at around 1 a.m. on December 6th, I got a notification from YouTube that my video was cleared to go back up. I was very surprised at this. For some context on how YouTube's copyright system works, upon receiving a copyright removal request, you can submit a counter notification if you believe that request shouldn't apply. You do need a valid reasoning for the dispute, such as fair use, but you can submit a counterclaim. And if after 10 business days the claimant does not respond with evidence of taking further legal action, the video is reinstated and the copyright strike is cleared. I was initially under the impression that the C&D was Valnet's response to my counterclaim, so the fact that my video was approved to go up afterwards really confuses me. I don't know if it's taking a really long time to process, or Valnet forgot to submit it, or Valnet was always going to send both a copyright strike and a C&D, but I currently have the video privated, so for now it only exists on my hard drive and probably the hard drive of some lawyer in Canada. At least here you can still bask at how terrible my webcam setup was. It was my first time trying a floating head format. I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. Let me finish reading this goddamn C&D. The conclusion of the letter instructs me to permanently cease and desist from making false and defamatory accusations with respect to Valnet, or from aiding or assisting others to do so. So to be a good citizen and abide by the rules of the US justice system, or I guess, the Canadian justice system, I have tried to limit all of the information in this update to the facts of what went down. Any opinions stated are recountings of how I felt at the time and do not necessarily reflect my current outward views on the company. The letter also instructed me to immediately remove the video from all social media platforms where it may have been published, and I mean, it was already delisted when they sent this to me. And to immediately withdraw all unfounded and defamatory statements and allegations that you have made or have relayed. What I just said there, that. For future reference, I believe that all 3,192 of my subscribers should do their own research before coming to conclusions about any company I talk about. Don't let me damage the reputation of some innocent corporation. Just Google Valnet and see what shows up. If you're interested in the legal definition of a cease and desist, search that too. Maybe even do both at the same time if you want. Or don't. I'm not your mom. Do whatever. Eat a sandwich, learn to juggle, watch The Office for the millionth time. Remember when Kelly slapped Michael, or when Jim slapped Dwight, or when Pam slapped Michael, or when Oscar slapped Will Smith, Barbara Streisand. I don't know where I'm going with this. Fuck video essays. I want to quit everything and become an AMV channel instead. Thank you so much to the professionals and friends who helped me through this process. I am not going to name names for your own sakes, but I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas, a happy Hanukkah, a joyous Kwanzaa, a wonderful Atheist Day, and all the other holidays. Goodbye.
Today, I'd like to thank my patrons at the producer tier and above, those being Ace L, Alicia Stella, Kira, Joy Content, Oliver Kerkoren, Sam, Vincent Coates, and Yensid. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all later.